Love lives here.
All right. So today we are talking about when conflict becomes sacred. So I'm going to back up here, and we're going to do this old school. Where are we? There we are. All right. So we're going to say our focus statement together with all the C's. All the C's. So give me some C's that we're going to say it with. Courage. Yes. Conviction. Clarity. Compassion. Commitment. Caring. Catharsis. Ooh, big word. All right, here we go. Together with all the C's. Ready? We embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. Yes, indeed we do. And so, where am I going? Oh, I wanted that slide too, so that works. Spirit was doing the slides the right way, even though in my head I was going the other direction. So, quick question for you. Would you rather wash the dishes by hand or use the dishwasher? So how many are hand washers? All right. How many are dishwashers or use the dishwasher? How many are both? All right. Right? How many believe that there is one way or a correct way to load the dishwasher? How many of your spouses or significant others follow your way of loading the dishwasher? Yes. Another way that my husband and I avoid conflict. That and toilet paper going the correct direction. Over. All right. The patent says over, so if you do it under and you don't have a cat, you're wrong. If you have cats, then it's okay because then they can't unspool the entire roll. Got it? Or the dog. Yeah, a dog might. Paisley used to when she was a very little baby, so she liked to unspool the toilet paper. So these are sources of conflict, are they not? They're minor, they're laughable, they're funny, but they are sources of conflict. And, you know, I know that if I had my way, and probably if you had your way, most of us would probably prefer a life with very little conflict, if any at all. Would you agree? We glide through conversations, meetings, family dinners, holidays. They'd be smooth sailing, right? No bumps, no bruised feelings, no misunderstandings, no crazy Uncle Carl. There'd be no tension. There'd be no disagreements. And disagreements would dissolve even before they began. Think of this utopia. And everybody would just get us. Right? But real life, my beloveds, real life is messy, is it not? Messy, 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 messy. And the real spiritual truth happens not when everything is smooth, but when we learn to meet the mess with love. Here's the truth. Here's the sacred truth. Conflict is not the enemy. Let me say it again. Conflict is not the enemy. It's a doorway. Conflict, when navigated with grace, is an opportunity. It's messy, it's imperfect, and it's sometimes a painful doorway, but it leads us somewhere important. It's an invitation to see more deeply, to understand more fully, to love more fiercely. An invitation that leads to deeper connection if we dare to walk through that doorway. Ernest Holmes reminds us that love points the way and the law makes it possible. Love, not being right, not winning, not defending, those don't point the way. Love points the way. Today I want to invite you to see conflict not as a battle to be fought, but as an opportunity to build bridges. Build bridges that change lives. Are we down with that? All right, so when conflict arises, it's our human reflex to armor up, make ourselves bigger, to defend, to justify, to attack, or retreat. But what if? What if every conflict was actually Spirit saying, hey, here's a deeper truth trying to emerge. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to pay attention? You see, when someone disagrees with us, when tension fills the room, when we feel misunderstood, that's not spiritual failure. That's spiritual invitation. An invitation to practice curiosity instead of condemnation. It's an invitation to lean in with wonder. What is really trying to heal here? What understanding wants to be born in this moment? And that's a radical shift, isn't it? Yeah. Because the world teaches us to pick sides. The world teaches us to build cases. The world teaches us to stockpile grievances and then air them all over social media, irresponsibly, stupidly, from official channels. But Spirit, my beloveds, Spirit invites us to build bridges. So several years ago, when I was working at the Flamingo in Las Vegas, I had a colleague with whom I butted heads. I use the colleague loosely, and butting heads is not necessarily, butting heads is like, let's call it a mild form of the conflict that we experienced together. We had different approaches, we had different visions, we had different personalities, we had different assumptions, and I found myself avoiding interactions with her at all cost. Because who needs the stress? I'm working in a spa. This is not a spa environment. You are creating a hostile work environment. I'm supposed to be chill for my guests. So who needs the stress? Not me, right? So Spirit, as I sat there one day, Spirit nudged me and said, avoidance is not a resolution, Jeff. Avoidance is a delay. And so after a particularly tense exchange, I decided to take a breath and say, hey, do you want to go to the EDR, employee dining room, and have lunch together? Not to argue, not to set her straight, but just to listen. And so over lunch, I learned something powerful. She wasn't being difficult for the sake of being difficult. She was carrying a really deep sense of being overlooked and dismissed throughout her entire life. Our conflict wasn't about what was happening in the spa. It was about her longing to be seen, heard, and valued. The conversation that we had didn't just heal our relationship, but it healed something inside both of us. Because conflict, beloveds, is often the surface expression of a deeper need to be seen, a deeper need to be heard, a deeper need to be understood, a deeper need to be loved. But when we stay curious, when we refuse to demonize, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of compassion. Your job isn't to correct. Your job isn't to fix. Your job isn't to convince them to see things your way. Your job isn't to control. Your job is to stay rooted in love. The real test, though, is not whether a conflict happens, because it's going to. The real test is whether or not we stay rooted in Spirit when it happens. When your heart races, when your face flushes, when the story you're telling yourself about the other person gets louder and louder. When you feel those words rising up in your chest that you know if they come flying out of your mouth, you're going to regret. that is the moment to return. Return to your breath. Return to your center. Return to knowing that Spirit is alive in you and Spirit is alive in them, even when you can't see it, especially when you can't see it. Return to the truth that the person in front of you is not your enemy, Cindy. They're not. Neither is the person on TV, right? They're your fellow traveler, learning, growing, stumbling, just like you are. You're not obligated, my beloveds, to meet escalation with escalation. You are free to meet it with presence. You're free to meet it with presence. You are not responsible for somebody else's energy, but you are responsible for your own. In the middle of conflict, you can silently affirm to yourself, I choose love over fear. I choose love over fear. I choose curiosity over judgment. I choose peace over pride. One practical tool that I love is called the sacred pause. Anybody heard of sacred pause? Think you've heard of the sacred pause? Yes? All right. So, in the heat of the moment, before speaking, just breathe. And ask Spirit silently, what is the highest truth I can speak here? What's the highest truth that I can speak here? Sometimes the highest truth is silence. Sometimes the highest truth is a boundary. Sometimes the highest truth is an apology. And sometimes it's a simple, tell me more. I want to understand. The sacred pause brings us back to presence, the present moment. It invites Spirit into the conversation. Right there, right between the words, as we are talking with, as we are speaking with, as we are conversing with the beloved in front of us. When we root ourselves in Spirit, not our ego, not our wounding, we become instruments of peace, even in the middle of an argument. You're no longer hostage to someone else's emotions, choices, or triggers. You get to stay connected to your own divine center. Doesn't that sound yummy and delicious? You're not here to win a battle, my friends. You're here to embody peace. You're here to build a bridge, not a wall. Eddie and I watched the Judds last week. Love can build a bridge between, Naomi wrote it basically for Winona as they were having all these difficulties and struggles in their lives. She wrote this beautiful song, Love Can Build a Bridge. But it's easier to build walls when you're frustrated, isn't it? Or when you're hurt. Walls of silence, walls of shame, walls of blame, walls of I'm right and you're wrong. But walls isolate. They say, I care more about my pride than our connection. Bridges, on the other hand, invite the possibility of healing, which is what that song is about. And grace, love, builds bridges. Bridges don't erase differences. They don't erase differences. They create pathways across them. Bridges allow truth and love to travel back and forth across the bridge between each other. Bridges are built with humility, compassion, and courage. Sometimes building a bridge means offering a simple olive branch. I see this differently, and I still love you. I'm willing to stay open in conversation. I'm open to healing, even if I don't know what that looks like yet. Building a bridge doesn't mean that you abandon your truth. It means you honor your truth while still honoring the humanity of the person across from you. And let's be honest, not every bridge will be crossed, right? Some people won't or can't meet you halfway, and that's okay. Because grace also means respecting that and blessing them on their journey. Sometimes blessing them on their highest and furthest journey. While keeping your own heart open and your own soul intact. So the science of mind, Ernest teaches us powerful tools to navigate conflict, doesn't he? Not by spiritually bypassing. We don't do spiritual bypass here, do we? No. Good. Emphatic. No. I love that. We don't do spiritual bypass here. Okay? Not pretending that everything is fine when it isn't, but by holding a higher consciousness of truth through it. The principle that we're looking at here is the principle of oneness. Oneness is foundational. There is one life, expressing uniquely as each of us. Not just as the people we like, not just in the people who think like we do, not just in the people who vote the way that we vote, not just in the people who parent the way that we parent, in everyone. Let me say that again. In everyone. Everyone. Yes, even everyone. Yes. When we remember that, right? It doesn't mean that we excuse the harmful behavior, but we do refuse to lose sight of someone's divine essence, even when it's hidden behind their humanity, even if it's buried deep under fear, anger, or hurt. We remember that the person across from us isn't their behavior. We remember they too are an emanation of spirit. We remember to choose to respond from wisdom and not woundedness. Another core principle that we have here at Centers for Spiritual Living is the principle of mental equivalence. The idea that the thoughts we hold, the beliefs that we hold, create the experiences that we live. And so if we hold a thought or a belief that someone is our adversary, we will experience more conflict, right? And if we hold a thought that they are our sister, our brother, our sibling in spirit, then them stumbling just like us, when we remember that, then we experience more grace. So one practical tool that you have at your disposal, my beloveds, is the tool of affirmative prayer. Familiar with affirmative prayer, yes? Also known as spiritual mind treatment. So you pray not for the other person to change. Oh, please, let Eddie, change. I'm not praying for Eddie to change. I don't need Eddie to change, right? What I'm praying for, what you're praying for, is to see them and the situation through the eyes of divine love. So your prayer might look like this. I recognize the presence of Spirit right here and right now. I call forth wisdom, compassion, and clarity. I know that this conflict seems to be, I know that right where this conflict is, right where this conflict seems to be, there is harmony, wisdom, and right action unfolding now. And I trust Spirit to guide us to a greater understanding. That simple. That simple. And prayer moves energy, does it not? Yeah. It doesn't always fix things instantly. Bummer. Right? But it shifts you, and that shift creates the space for healing. Prayer doesn't change just the outer circumstances. Prayer changes us. And when prayer changes us, changed people change relationships. Another tool is the let them theory. Who's heard of Let Them by Mel Robbins, the book? Let Them? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Mel Robbins wrote a book called Let Them. Put it on your list, okay? In her book, Mel Robbins says, let them make their choices. Let them have their opinions. Let them think what they think. Say what they say and feel what they feel. Let them. It's not surrendering your own boundaries. It's surrendering your need to control them, right? And when we let them, we stay in tune and we stay in line with our own lane. We stay rooted in spirit. We stay rooted, and we give others the dignity to own their own journeys. And when we do, we free ourselves. We move from reaction to response, from judgment to grace, and from resentment to peace. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for a minute, and we're going to practice this let them briefly. The other part about it is let me. It's not just a let them, it's a let me. But let's practice this briefly here. So take a nice, deep, easy breath. Settle yourself into the space a little bit more deeply. And bring to mind someone you've experienced conflict with recently. Don't go all full tilt. Just a minor conflict is sufficient. Didn't pick your socks up off the floor again. Picture their face and feel whatever you feel. No judgment here. Then silently, in your heart, say to them, I let you be who you are. I let you have your thoughts. I let you walk your path. And take another breath, feeling the space that opens up inside of you. The lightness that comes when you release the need to fix, change, or convince them of anything. You're not abandoning love. You're choosing a higher love. One that honors your soul and them. Let them. Let spirit. And let yourself return to peace. So take one more breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. The let them theory is about letting them, but it's also about letting me, letting yourself take responsibility for what you can control, for what you do have influence over, which is who? Me, myself, and I, right? The three of us. That's the only people you have control over, me, myself, and I. Right? So it's about letting them be them, and letting me choose me. Letting me choose my path forward rather than getting spun around the axle. Right? Letting them be free who they are frees you to be who you are. And that freedom creates, births, real, authentic connection. When you practice letting them, you're not giving up. You're simply aligning your mind with peace. You're refusing to energize the drama. And you're choosing to trust spirit to do what spirit does best, heal and transform. And sometimes this healing does not look like reconciliation, like Ed said. Doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like inner freedom. In either way, grace wins. So now we're going to break to tables. And you have 3 discussion questions here to share and to talk about at your tables. Why is this? Oh, there we go. So the first one is, what shifts occur when you see conflict as a doorway instead of a battle? What shifts can occur when you see conflict as a doorway instead of a battle? Where are you being invited to build a bridge instead of a wall? And what spiritual practice can you use or might you use when emotions run high? So those are your 3 questions for a discussion, and we'll give you about 15 minutes or so to talk about any or all of those questions as your table sees fit. And for those of you joining us online, you can join us at our Zoom table. Daryl is there in the Zoom table, ready to welcome you to discuss in the Zoom table. And you can see the ID and password scrolling across the bottom of your screen. And go. So today I want to invite you to see conflict differently. Okay? Not as a sign that something is wrong, but as a sacred opening. Not as a battle to be won, but as a bridge to be built. Not as something to fear, but as a field where love, if we can let it, can do its healing work. Conflict is a sacred opportunity to practice trust. Trust in spirit, trust in the unfoldment of every soul's path, including your own. Let's return to your breath, your center, your divine knowing, and meet each other with courage, compassion, and grace. Let them feel what they feel. Let them walk their path. Let them be who they are. You walk your path. You stay rooted in love. You build the bridge. You be the presence of grace. And so your homework this week is building a bridge. Choose one person, maybe someone you've had tension with, big or small, and take one small action to build a bridge instead of a wall. It might look something simple like sending a text, thinking of you, hoping you're doing well, meaning it sincerely, not passive-aggressively. Offering a compliment or a kind word, even if things still feel awkward. Again, sincerity. Listening with your full attention in a conversation without planning your rebuttal. Saying, help me understand where you're coming from, instead of defending your position. It doesn't have to fix everything. It just needs to open the door to greater understanding. So the goal is not perfect reconciliation in this moment. The goal is practicing grace in action. One act of love, one step toward connection. When we learn to navigate conflict with grace, we don't just change our conversations. We change lives. We change communities. And we change the world. One sacred moment at a time. And so it is. And let's just come together in consciousness. So right here and right now, I know that there simply is one life, one presence, expressing itself wholly and completely as the power and the presence of love itself. Expressing itself in, through, and as all of creation. Because in the beginning, there was only one. There's only ever been one. There only is one. There will only ever be one. Infinite and eternal. And this one brought forth from itself, through itself, as itself, all of life, all of creation. Therefore, I know that each one gathered here this day is a divine emanation, an impartation, a manifestation of this one life, inseparable from it and inseparable from one another. For there truly is just this one. And yes, there is diversity in unity, but there is not uniformity. And so we show up as individualized expressions of this one life, so that it and we may know ourselves better, more fully, more completely, more wholly, and more holy. It is through these interactions with one another that we grow and develop and remember who and whose we are. It is through these interactions and even our conflicts with one another that we are invited into a deeper understanding of self, of life, of love. And so they may be uncomfortable. We recognize conflict for what it is, a doorway, a pathway to a deeper understanding, to a deeper love. A love that is most high. And that highest most love and that innermost love is simply one love. So we go forth this day, trusting and knowing that Spirit maintains and sustains its beloved creation. Trusting and knowing that all we meet is another face of God, another expression of ourselves. And so we offer love. We offer peace. We offer grace. And so I give thanks for this awareness. I give thanks for this truth. And I release this word now, knowing it is done, knowing it is so. I let it be, and so it is. And so I invite everybody to please stand, and let's say our affirmation for the week together. This affirmation will be in the Facebook group at 1 o'clock, followed by your tool for thriving at 1:15. So you always have it. Go to your Facebook group to check it out. So I choose love over fear, curiosity over judgment, peace over pride. So something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called love. Love is in my mind. Love is in my body. Love is in everything I do. I am it. I share it. I receive it. And I move love forward because love lives here. Let's sing it.